So we're gonna start today with let me get rid of this thing right here. There we go with Sarveshwaran from India. Says, I just completed my course in 3D and I'm just stuck and I don't know what to do further as I'm getting rejected in all companies. Let's take a look. Okay, so first impression that I get here, and I feel like I've seen your portfolio before. This is a tricky part, guys, and this might be a reason why you might be getting rejected, base arts. The problem with this portfolio is that I feel like it's a very generic portfolio. Like, I don't have a clear identity of who you are. First of all, you don't have a name. I do have a personal opinion about names. If you want to be professional, be professional. Like, have your name right here. Like, what are you scared of? Like, people finding your Facebook? Like, just keep it private and you're not gonna have any issues, right? So have your name right here. Like, who are you? You're not Base Arts 23, and you're not famous enough that your like pseudonym is gonna be like known by everyone, right? Unless you are, again, like there are some really like great 3D artists out there that go by a pseudonym. I think that's the name. But in your case, well, you're not there yet. So my advice, probably just keep your name, a profile picture to, you know, to have a face to the name might be a good idea as well. Now, if we take a look at the pieces, this pieces right here, they're not telling me much, right? They're not telling me much in terms of the technical quality that we might be expecting. For instance, here, this is not right, and this is a very common thing that happens. This is why it's very important to always look at reference, guys. Reference is the most important thing that you can use as an artist. I take a look at this thing, and the first thing I notice is that you're using some very like intense generic alphas and normal maps on this piece. Look at the wheels. You are adding this sort of like moss element here on the wheels, when in reality moss should be growing from underneath. If this thing is like stuck on the mud or whatever, it's not supposed to be here on the top. And this is where things get, again, a little bit tricky, and hopefully I'm going to be able to not only explain to you how to fix this, but also help you guys on your understanding of texturing. Texturing is one of those like beautiful things. I love it. I think it's one of my favorite things, if not for like sculpting. So I'm gonna go here to the sample projects. Let's grab DJ Toth. So when we're talking about texturing, it's very important that we always think about how things are going to be constructed. So if we, for instance, want to do, again, like some mossy wood, what I can do is as follows. I'm going to start with just a basic wood right here. And without even adding like any complicated things here to our element, the only thing you need to add is a good material and a good generator. Again, like I know, or I understand that this is not the best texture for this kind of thing, but just bear with me. So if we go with this one right here, and you just go to like a moss texture, I do have this meadow moss right here. You just need to think about, where is this moss going to be accumulated? Yes, we can have moss on the top. That's a very common one. But if you're gonna have moss on the top, it should not be like this. It should be sitting like in patches on top of the element. And there's very easy ways to do it. Of course, we have this smart mask, but I'm going to show you real quick how to do it. If you want something to be sitting on top of the element, just right-click, add a black mask, right-click, add a generator. Let's add something like a light generator. I really like the light generator for this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this light generator so that it's hitting from the top. Then I'm going to increase the highlight level so that we have some like very intense lines there on the border of the element. And there you go. So now, as you can see, we have all of this moss hitting only the top parts of like this frog right here. Of course, this is a very boring mask. It doesn't look as nice as it could. So what I'm going to do, for instance, here is, I recently showed you this, that we have the filter. Let's add a little bit of a warp filter. That warp filter is going to be very good to blend or to clean the elements a little bit. You can see that instead of having this super like straight line right there, we can warp it a little bit to get a nicer effect. And finally, we can add something like, let's say, a fill layer. I'm gonna go for like a grunge. Let's grab this grunge right here. And I'm going to increase the balance a little bit, and I'm gonna multiply this. So what this does is, as you can see now, instead of having this moss every single place on the top part of my element, I just have it on certain parts. And we can always play with this, right? Like if we want a little bit more or a little bit less, we can play with this. We can play with the tiling, for instance, if we want to have a little bit more. And it's just going to give you a little bit more of a realistic result. This, and this is like not even done, right? But this is just like the construction that we would expect to have something that looks a little bit better than this. So be careful with your textures, my friend, because again, this asset right here, it's not really cutting it, okay? Now, if we take a look at some of the other assets, I do see some of them that are a little bit better. For instance, this one right here, even the presentation, I think you did a good job. Like, I like this turntable, looks nice. That's what, like the roughness map, okay. Even the color information here looks nice. You already know what I'm gonna say with this. It's the freaking metal edgeware, right? Remember to break up your metal edgeware. You don't have, or you're not gonna have metal edgeware everywhere. So be careful with that. You again, you don't want to have that kind of like result. And this is where things get tricky, right? You have a very low poly mesh that tells me that you want this to be for games, and then you have this asset right here. This is a very common issue, and I want you guys to be very mindful of this when you're presenting your stuff. If you have a type of density on your mesh, you don't want to have this type of density as well. It makes no sense. Why are we giving this little knobs right here so much geometry when the main body, the big body of this like blade holder or whatever, has so few polygons, right? Like it looks very faceted, very low poly. Again, it doesn't make sense. So when do you want to do product design, in which case I would recommend do more of these things where you actually did a really good job, to be honest? Or do you want to get into games where you are going to have to do a little bit more of this? Your portfolio right now, it's a little bit all over the place, and it's not really consistent between the pieces. We have some good pieces like this one and then some really bad pieces like this one, and it's important that everything is consistent, okay?